No, you don't. What up, Mini family? Let me spin you a little tale. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, someone asked someone else for some photography advice, and that person, while their intentions were pure, gave that other dude or dudette some bad advice, and that bad advice stuck and spread like a disease from miniature painter to miniature painter. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about light boxes and people's belief that you need them to take good miniature photography. And this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. So let's break this down. First of all, what is the main function of a light box? A light box provides diffusion for your lights. And what is diffusion? Diffusion is characterized by softened highlights and softened shadows. The opposite of diffused light is harsh light, which is characterized by harsh specular highlights and very dark contrasted shadows. Oftentimes in normal photography, soft diffused light is preferred because it's more flattering. It doesn't accent every wrinkle and feature of the face, but it smooths it over. Here in the studio, we have a very large soft light as a key light, which produces a very nice soft highlight across my face and doesn't cast very harsh shadows on this side of my face. So how do we get diffused light? Well, you shoot your light bulbs through diffusive material. Okay, I'm out of here, see ya. Now, diffusive material is oftentimes characterized by some amount of translucency and also that it's white. You can use things like large china balls, you can use shower curtains, you can use undergarment fabric from the fabric store. It's really only limited by your creativity. But how does it soften highlights and shadows? Well, what diffusive material does for us is it increases the size of the light by scattering the light. So we take two 85 watt CFL bulbs like this and go to a much larger 60-inch diameter ball of light like this. You can imagine this like on a cloudy day outside. When you go take photos on an overcast day, the highlights and shadows on someone's face are very nice because the sky is acting as one gigantic light, whereas on a sunny day, you get really harsh light on the forehead and really dark shadows under the eyes. Now imagine you're a photographer and you're using these lights here to shoot photos of some 6 foot tall male, say maybe kind of white and pasty and kind of weak looking. We notice that the lights are very harsh and they're casting very dark, distinct shadows on this pasty white nerd's face. Now imagine if you take pasty white nerd and you shrink him down 72 times. Well, now these light bulbs are comparatively 8 times the size of the person. They're very large, and diffusing them would offer no appreciable difference because they're so big already. Now imagine if we do this in the other way. Imagine if you have a 6 foot tall pasty white nerd and you have a light fixture that is 8 times the size of them. That's a ridiculous thought, and no commercially available light exists like that. In fact, soft boxes that are designed for photography are oftentimes about like half the size of a 6 foot tall person at the maximum. They're never the size of a full human being, let alone 8 times the size of a full human being. You guys kind of see where I'm going with this. Diffusion makes light sources larger. When light sources are larger compared to the subject of photography, their highlights and shadows become softer. Let's do a little bit of an experiment. I took 3 photos of a miniature using 3 amounts of diffusion, ranging from a lot of diffusion to literally no diffusion. Let's see if you can order them from no diffusion to maximum diffusion. For ease, the images are in the description below, but they'll also be playing on the video right now. The studious among you will notice a dead giveaway in the photos, and that's the shadow that the miniature itself is casting. I'm using two bulbs to take photos, so the miniature is casting two shadows on either side of it, and the more that we increase the diffusion, the more these shadows kind of disappear. But for a moment, let's just look at the miniature itself. The differences between the photos are not as clear as one would think. There are some incredibly minor differences in the way the metallics are shown and some small variations in contrast in different parts of the models that might be chalked up to small variations in the way the lights were placed. The diffusion has had an effect, but is it a good one? Is it one that you want? Is it enough of effect to even worry about using diffusion in your miniature photography? Well, that's kind of up to you, but at the very least, you should know what diffusion does for your miniature photography.
Let me just interrupt for 1 second. One thing I forgot to mention is diffusion is pretty helpful when the majority of your model is a satin or a glossy finish. So take this Hellboy bust for instance. I did an ink glaze over a large portion of the model, which resulted in a satin finish on the skin. And when I took pictures of it without diffusion, there were lots of unnatural reflections that looked really bad. So when the majority of your model or a large portion of it is satin or glossy, diffusion has its place. It has real value. But when just portions of it are glossy, like lenses or gems or things like that, then it's less valuable. But this is an important distinction to make that you should know when you're photographing or photographing models that are have a large amount of satin or gloss finish.
Sorry for the brief interruption. This is the last time I'll talk about this, but there are 2 more days left as of the release of this video to pre-order a Miniac Paint More Minis t-shirt or a sweater, or to use the Miniac 2 and Miniac 3 coupon codes when buying 2 or 3 or more items. As soon as 2 days is up, this t-shirt and sweater will no longer be available. So go check it out. There's all kinds of other cool merch too, like a coffee mug, a cool cutting mat, and also a patch for your blue jean vest. That's miniac.bigcartel.com. You can find a link in the description below. All right, guys, back to the video. All right, let's go on to a few other features of light boxes that I dislike. And the number one reason is that diffusion cuts down on your light's output. When you shoot it through multiple layers of diffusion, you lose light intensity. The more diffusion you use, the softer your light becomes, but the weaker your light becomes. Now, it's already kind of difficult to expose miniatures correctly for miniature photography because you need to use a very deep depth of field, making the image very dark. So making it harder on ourselves by making our lights less strong for very, very, very minimal difference is something that should really be thought about and considered for a long time. Is it really worth it? To me, it's not. Now, the second thing that I really dislike about light boxes is light spill. The thing is a gigantic cube of light, and so when you stick a background in the back of the light box and you shoot an image, that light is just bleeding everywhere. Now, say you want to do something like an infinite black background, you have to scrim off the inside of the light box to make sure no light is spilling onto it, and even then, there is still some. So what people will tend to do is just let it lie, and what you get is this really washed out background that is not doing you any good in terms of separating the miniature itself from the background and having the miniature be the focus. Instead, there's this washed out, nasty background in the back. Now, some light boxes have the ability to open the back of the light box, and in this case, if you can get the white box far enough away from your glowing cube of light, you can get a dark background, but it's kind of inconvenient. Light boxes are kind of large and annoying to use, and is it really worth it considering everything else a light box does? Again, I would say no. What I really want to say about light boxes is that light boxes are a tool that provide diffusion. If diffusion is something that you want for whatever reason, it can be had in much better and cheaper ways than light boxes. So instead of going out and spending $30 to $50 on one of various size, just use some undergarment fabric that you bought at the fabric store for $2, or use a China ball that you found on Amazon for $10, or use shower curtain that is going to be thrown away in the first place. You don't need to waste your money on a Lightbox. What you need is a basic understanding of photography in general. That's gonna serve you a lot better than some magical tool. So let's kill the Lightbox myth right now and just encourage people to experiment with their camera and experiment with different settings of exposure and different kinds of lights as they're able to do. And if you need help learning all of the ins and outs of miniature photography, I have a whole series about miniature photography that you can find up in the top right-hand corner of this video. Enough about how useless Lightboxes are. Let's check out a mini person's model. Who we gonna do? Ric de Felice? Ric, I'm gonna guess it's Rico, because I don't know if R-I-C-C is a name. Ric de Felice. Felice. Oh, what you got, Felice? Okay, so we got some Goliath Gang guys from the recently released Necromunda box. I love the skin tones. I dig the base. I actually like how you did the little scratches on the sides of the base. That's pretty cool, actually. I like the teal mohawk. I like see the little highlights on the wrinkles in the pants near the crotch. Yes, I'm looking at the miniature's crotch. Awesome. Thank you for submitting your work, Ric de Felice. Actually, it is Ric because his Instagram account is even Rick. Maybe it's Rick. I don't know how I'm saying Ric. Ric de Felice. Thanks for checking out my video about how I hate Lightboxes. If you want to check out more videos about miniature photography, as I said earlier, top right-hand corner of the video, you'll learn everything you want to learn and probably more about miniature photography. If you want to support the channel, don't forget to like the video. I have merch available on my Redbubble account, things like t-shirts and stickers and posters and all the things that you can make with Redbubble. Subscribe or die, and most importantly, don't forget to pay more money! Do not knock over my thing. And we go to a very much larger, oh, gigantic comparated